The National Economic Council, made up of state governors and headed by Vice President Kashim Shettima, is appealing to organized labor to reconsider its upcoming nationwide strike planned for the 3rd of October, raising concerns about the potential consequences of a strike on the economy. Governor Caleb Mutwang of Plateau State addressed State House correspondents on the council's decision, urging governors to engage in dialogue with labor leaders in their states to prevent the impending industrial action. The meeting, chaired by the Vice President, also covered a range of issues, including presentations from special presidential committees on flood impact and assessment, fiscal and tax reforms, and the distribution of palliative across subnational levels.
NEC actually expressed genuine concern about the situation in the country and appreciates the concern by labor to have those issues addressed. And that is why NEC is appealing for patience, is appealing for time to be able to address the concerns of labor. It's a federation, so whatever happens, labor is represented in all the 36 states and FCT. And NEC is appealing that discussions should continue at the state levels because there will be peculiarities as to the issues to be addressed concerning the demands of labor.
Members of the council have received the sum of $2 billion from the federal government as part of the palliative, and also work is on progress by all members of the council, and the council urged members to redouble effort to alleviate the sufferings of the Nigerians.
Council in its resolution resolved to develop a roadmap for intervention and directed NEMA to provide immediate intervention or relief to affected states. Immediate intervention by NEMA to provide immediate intervention or relief materials to those affected states. And then a roadmap will be developed and articulated by NEC and the chairman of the Nigerian Governors Forum. That is the resolution of NEC.
National Economic Council meeting there and appealing to organized labor. Rufai.
Yeah, so I understand the position of the National Economic Council because every strike definitely will have very dire consequences in the economy. It's going to hurt the economy, and we know that. And nobody wants anything of such for a very, hurt economy as we speak now. But when you also look at the grand scheme of things, the government has shown bad faith. And goodness me, if I'm to earn a naira for every time I've said the government has shown bad faith as regards this labor matter, I should be a billionaire by now. Because in one breath, the National Economic Council is pleading with labor because of the state of the economy and the fact that there's been many prolonged industrial actions. But the Attorney General is also saying, if you go on strike, there's going to be contempt against you. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, what you do speaks so loud I can't hear what you say. And that is what is happening as regards this. That's what the government has done. What they have done has been speaking so loud that even when they say things, people can't trust or believe in them. The body language, after they set up a tripartite committee on the 19th of June, by the government, by not even attending those meetings again with labor, are not reaching a reasonable conclusion. It's speaking so loud that we can't hear the things the government is saying now. They also advanced an argument that, on the 1st of October, probably the government will announce something in the interest of labor. I'd ask, really? And you had to wait all this while if you want to announce anything, you've not announced it prior to this time? So in all of this, nobody wants to strike. Yes, that's a good argument on the table. Because it will affect a lot of things, because already there are jitters now, even as regards purchasing and moving of product and things like that there might be fuel scarce. Nobody wants that. But increasingly, the government should at least show good faith. Negotiate with them, talk to them. Even if you don't have the money like we all claim, yes, we know we're in economic dire straits as we speak, but talk. Have conversations with labor. Give them a sense of belonging. But this idea of the minister not even attending the meeting in the first place, and the meeting ending with fights and things like that, it will not take us anywhere. We still have time till the 3rd of October. We can spin this around. We can do something as regards it. We can really avert this strike if we want to. But are we? Or we're going to wait again?
What is the state of play? The National Economic Council met yesterday. And the National Economic Council, following on the footsteps of the Ministry of Labor and Employment, again appealed to organized labor not to go on strike on Tuesday, October 3, as it has promised. And the reason for that strike is basically the removal of fuel subsidy and the fact that, the Nigerian government has refused to listen to the demands by labor. We have listed these demands: return to status quo ante bellum, increase in minimum wage, providing CNG, alternative fuel supply options, making sure that arrears of salaries are paid, and all of those demands by labor, and even requests for negotiation. President Tinubu set up a presidential committee on the matter, subcommittees were set up, but the federal government of Nigeria at some point abandoned the negotiation table. Labor served notice, September 5 and 6, organized warning strike. Now by Friday, all the ultimatums expired. And organized labor met this week and resolved that it will go on strike beginning from Tuesday. Strike that will be total and indefinite. And now yesterday, the National Economic Council met and has also appealed to organized labor like the Ministry of Labor and Employment. Will labor listen? Will a magic happen before Tuesday? On the part of labor, the United Front of the Civil Society, the United Action Front for Civil Society, says it has mobilized all its groups. NUPENG, the body that is in charge of dispensing of petrol in the stations, has called on owners of petrol stations, petrol station attendants, all of them not to come to work, which means that by Tuesday, there will be no fuel at the fuel stations if this goes on. And in any case, we are beginning to see the signs. Fuel queues are beginning to show up in parts of Lagos because of panic buying. But the larger thing is that it's not just the petrol stations that will be affected. The entire economy will be shut down. Organized private sector has appealed also to labor not to go ahead because of the hardship this will impose. But government is just appealing. The people in government, they become priests. They become evangelists instead of addressing the basic issues. Also, at the end of the National Economic Council meeting yesterday, Mutfwang, the governor of Plateau State, who spoke first on behalf of that meeting, was appealing to Nigerians, and he was saying that on October 1, the concerns of labor will be addressed. The same concerns that they did not address since June. So is it between now and Tuesday, in a broadcast, in an independent day broadcast, that President Tinubu will address those concerns? What difference will it make? What difference will 48 hours make? And by the way, where is President Tinubu? He seems to be missing in action. The last time he was cited was at the United Nations General Assembly in New York. And we were told, he was on his way back home. He was stopped over in France. Everybody else that traveled with him, I think we've seen most of them, they've returned. The president is missing. Is there now a Bermuda Triangle in the presidential villa? That Bermuda Triangle must be artificial. And it must not be a Bermuda Triangle that would just take our president away. And for 5-6 days, nobody will know where he is. No report about his activities, except I've not been reading the newspapers. Now the president needs to be on the ground immediately to address most of these issues. But in his absence, the vice president is also appealing, to organized labor, where we don't know what will play out by next week. Because Lateef Fagbemi SAN, the Attorney General of the Federation, has already written a letter to Femi Falana SAN that, in fact, if labor were to go on strike next week, they will be breaking the law. They will be defying a ruling by the National Industrial Court, which considered this matter and, gave an injunction, I think on June 5, saying that until the motion on notice is determined, the parties involved in the matter should maintain the status quo. But of course, since then, Labour has had to issue a warning to the Ministry of Justice and also to say that any kind of injunction from any court will be disregarded. So at this moment, Nigeria hangs in the balance in the face of a possible industrial action by organized labor next week, which can only have the effect of imposing a lot of hardship on Nigerians. And in the midst of all this, our president is missing. So please, can some researchers tell us about this artificial Bermuda Triangle between the United Nations General Assembly and celebrations on October 1? Well, you never know. Things happen in Nigeria. The president may well show up later today. But we need an explanation why we haven't heard from him for about 6 days.
Well, I think even if we don't see him in the next few days, on the 1st of October or the 2nd of October, we should hopefully see the president receiving the march past that usually occurs on Independence Day and leading the celebrations. Actually, we don't know if we should be celebrating on the 1st of October 2023. Indeed, the Ogun State governor has said that in line with the directives of the federal government declaring the 2nd of October a public holiday in celebration of Independence Day, that there's no celebration in Ogun State in light of prevailing economic situations in the country. And I do think that that's a position that many of the governors should take, because in terms of the spendings, in terms of the celebration, a lot of people are looking at the fact that what is there to celebrate? What are we honoring? Yes, we must acknowledge that some things we celebrate, that we have had uninterrupted democracy since 1999 and the likes, but people are suffering. There's no money to even celebrate in terms of for individuals. And with an impending strike action shutting down the nation, as organized labor has said, people will be scrambling around on the 1st and the 2nd, looking for how to stock and store up things rather than even remembering that there's an independence celebration. And it's very pivotal because this is the first celebration of this particular administration. And unfortunately, a lot of people do not see what there is to celebrate because of things, happening around. The cost of food, food inflation, the fact that since the removal of fuel subsidy, no commensurate a cushion has been given by the federal government despite many, many promises. Now, in many cases, organized labor has almost been demonized. Oh, they want to shut down the economy. Why would you want to do this? The people will suffer. But it's very important to note that the reason why they've come to this point is that despite many opportunities for negotiations and dialogue, the federal government hasn't upheld its end of the bargain. And so whilst the national NEC is appealing to labor, organized labor, perhaps they should appeal to the president and themselves to do right by the people. These are the people they should be, the energy they're using to motivate and say, oh, you have a court action and the likes. Use the same energy to make the lives of Nigerians better. The power lies in that room. So in terms of, oh, we don't have money, there's nothing to be done, let the optics demonstrate that. And that's why perhaps I'm saying that let's not have a big show of let's celebrate and put on masks and all that. Yes, it's good for the morale of the people to see some form of, but what would be more important would be to solve the issues of the Nigerian people, very critical. And so beyond appealing to labor, appeal to the president, appeal to the sub-nationals, let them do right by Nigerians. We'll move on to the next story. The Kaduna State Gubernatorial Election Petition Tribunal has upheld the victory of Governor Sani of the All Progressives Congress and dismissed the petition filed by the People's Democratic Party. Our correspondent, NEC Gabriel, reports.
It's Judgment Day in Kaduna, and security personnel were stationed at strategic locations within and around the court's premises. Cameras were not allowed into the courtroom. The justices are set to deliver their ruling virtually in the presence of journalists, lawyers, and members of political parties. The judgment lasted 5.5 hours. In a split decision of 2-1, the tribunal led by Justice Victor Oviawe struck out the petition because the pre-hearing notice was filed out of time and was deemed to have been abandoned. His ruling was also told by Justice N. Noye, while Justice K. Damlat disagreed, noting that the pre-hearing notice was properly filed and was not abandoned. However, the tribunal notes that if the petition had not been dismissed, it would have ordered supplementary election in 22 polling units within 90 days. Counsel to both the petitioner and the respondents reacted to the judgment.
By the provision of the Constitution, they are required to also consider the petition on merit. So on merit, two of them said that election is supposed to be conducted in 22 polling units because the number of the voters there exceed the margin of lead. But they have said that the PDP wanted it to be declared as the winner of the election. The tribunal said that they have no proof that. They allege that there are corrupt practices perpetrated by APC. They said they have no proof that. So in essence, as of today, the PDP petition is dismissed by the tribunal. Unless PDP appeal to the Court of Appeal, then we now know what will happen there. But the petition has been dismissed.
The court arrived at a decision based on the submissions and argument of lawyers, and the majority of the tribunal judges decided that the election was inconclusive, and one judge affirmed the election. So, and the majority decision of the court is that the election was inconclusive.
So are you satisfied with the judgment?
Well, one way or the other, but we are still going to test an arm of the judgment too. It's okay.
While the Kaduna State Secretary to the government applauded the judgment and called on the opposition to join hands in moving the state forward, the People's Democratic Party chairman says they will appeal the judgment until they get justice.
We are going to maintain and confirm to the people of Kaduna State that we are going to continue to do what we promised to do. We are going to continue with the sustained agenda of the governor, like we've seen what we've started in the last 100 days that we have celebrated. So we are good to go.
We want to thank the people of Kaduna State by standing with us, and they are now sure that what we told them that INEC did, a rape of democracy on election processes, have been confirmed by the tribunal.
NEC Gabriel, Arise News, Kaduna.
Meanwhile, the People's Democratic Party governorship candidate in Kaduna State, Issa Ashiru, says he will appeal the ruling of the state's election petition tribunal. The court had dismissed his petition to the effect that the application for pre-hearing was done prematurely. Ashiru says the true position of the ruling is that the tribunal finds merit in the aspect of his case relative to the margin of win between the two leading candidates. All right, the more results coming in from state election petition tribunals. This from Kaduna State.
So this new dispensation in our justice system where state election petition tribunals deliver their judgment with Zoom, it doesn't sit down well with me. I don't know what is going on. But first it was Kano, now Kaduna. I just hope it's not a trend we continue. Because the first time we admitted it was because of the problems of COVID-19 pandemic, if my memory serves me right. And as we are today, I'm not sure we have anything around COVID. So judges should be able to sit in front and deliver their judgments live and direct. Secondly, there were many different interpretations to this judgment yesterday. And one thing is certain, I'm not surprised that the PDP will have to still go to the Court of Appeal to be able to understand it. And the decisions were quite very split. 2-1 as regards filing. You know, did they find we did it stipulated time, threshold and all of that, the 21 days. On that account, the case was dismissed. But they now went further and said, okay, if we're to consider the merits of the case, then they will have issued a rerun. So it was based on these two grand decisions that some papers went to town yesterday and said, oh, it was declared inconclusive, there's a rerun. In fact, most of the major dailies ran with that story. Some ran otherwise. But from this detailed report by NEC, and the governor too had been making media rounds, we have seen it. In fact, both parties filed different reactions. The governor filed a triumphant reaction. Also, the PDP too filed a triumphant reaction. So this is split at loggerheads. One thing is certain, definitely they will go to appeal, and we'll be able to see how the appeal process goes as regards this.
All right, Dr. Watson.
Okay, very quickly. First, the point you were making. Yes, during COVID-19, there were practice directions that courts could sit, virtually. That came up during that time. And the Supreme Court, in fact, issued directives that was acceptable. So, but it was questioned. I recall it was Awomolo SAN at the time who raised the debate, quoting the section of the Constitution which says that the court must sit in public. And there was an argument around that time. But there is no issue with, a virtual hearing of cases. What other lawyers point out is that, look, that was meant for a limited time, but it does not have any effect on the substance, particularly when evidence is not being presented. It's just the judges presenting their case. So even if judgment is delivered by Zoom, it's not an unlawful thing to do. It's not illegal. That's number one. Number two, what I think is quite interesting about the case in Kaduna State is that the judgment itself is confusing. The reporting of it is even more confusing. Yesterday, journalists, media houses couldn't make up their minds whether this was a matter in which Sani had won or he had lost, and there was a lot of confusion. But by this morning, well, a little clarity. What we know is that petition was dismissed on the basis of the preliminary objection of the APC. Points that this was filed out of time and all of that, and on the basis of procedure, on technical grounds. Two of their lordships said this matter could not stand and that Sani, will remain as governor. However, there was a proviso that if those technical grounds did not exist, then of course they will have ordered, a supplementary election in 22 polling units. So the confusion, therefore, is what exactly was that tribunal saying? You are saying on one ground, technical grounds. On another hand, you are saying, if you had filed your matter properly, then this will not have happened. There will have been a supplementary election. The purpose of a court of law is to do justice. And many have complained that the problem we have here, we may have in the tribunal case, in the gubernatorial election in Kaduna State, a case where the dissenting opinion, we have not seen the full details of the submissions, where the dissenting opinion may even be more important than the majority opinion. Why? Because the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeal, the hierarchy of courts, they had given an instruction that in determining these election petitions, don't rely on technicality. Look at the substance of the matter and decide on it. Even if there are technical issues, just point it out. Why is this so? One, because election petitions are sui generis. Two, because they are time-bound. So that even when the matter goes to the Court of Appeal, the hands of the Court of Appeal will not be tied. They will have enough material to look at. Instead of ordering a retrial at the lower court, and then you have time issues, and justice will not be done. So this presents a special case. And that is why I think, the governor of Kaduna State already celebrating and saying this is victory for what? No, there are legal, issues involved. That the Court of Appeal, as the PDP has already said it will go to the Court of Appeal, that will be pointed out. So these are the issues. So does it mean that when directions are given, to these tribunals, the judges just ignore them? So that's one major case that the confusion arising from the Kaduna State election petition ruling presents us with. And then journalists, instead of rushing to just write anything, should take their time to get the details. Too many people comment on rulings of court without getting the details, without even reading the judgment, and in the process, they create greater confusion. The reporting yesterday was horrendous, was terrible, illiterate at best.
Yeah, it was confusion ruled yesterday and has already been established. I think what I'll just say is that the ruling of their justices at the preliminary stage of the petitions court, presents perhaps a strong case for the opposition in the terms of the PDP candidate Issa Ashiru to take on to appeal. Of all the cases we've seen thus far, perhaps this is one that is definitely worth appealing and reevaluating the merit of the case and seeing if he indeed has an opportunity to have a rerun in the 22 polling units that have been identified. Obviously, as he's mentioned, this is not the end of the road, and perhaps the Court of Appeal would give more clarity to and review the judgment of their justices in the Court of Appeal. But of course, the drama unfolds, it keeps unfolding. And yesterday, already some people had gone to the streets to, especially in the opposition, the PDP, to celebrate and declare that Governor Sani had been sacked until the details and the clarification was made as to what the ruling had actually determined. And so I think it's interesting. I believe that this cycle, in terms of the judgments given, would give a robust conversation in many law schools in terms of legal classes as to the kinds of judgments that we have seen in the past few days. But as has been mentioned, Issa Ashiru has said he'll go on to the appeal court, and it'll be interesting to see what the determination at that court will be.